Shattering Glass Chapter 13. I thought what those boys were doing for Simon, sort of adopting him into their group, was such a hopeful thing. In my experience, high school cliques are more about excluding people. When Rob came to me with his plan, I thought it was generous. I also thought it would be fun. And mostly, I thought that the other students would learn something about the goodness of people from it. They learned something about people, but nothing about goodness. I retired from education that year. I sell insurance now. Charles Crocker, former principal of Brazos Vale High School. Our last football game, the first week of November, was homecoming. Rob thought the time was right for a major push to make Simon Mr. Popularity. How do you plan to make that miracle happen? Bobster asked. I have my ways, Rob said in a mock Gestapo voice. In fact, I'm on my way to see Deputy Dog to put the plan into action. You're going to get the principal to make people like Simon? Coop asked. I don't think it'll work. Rest, Coop. Save up those thinking cells for the ACT. I patted Coop on the back. The ACT test was the Saturday after homecoming. Coop had to score a meager 18 to get in line for an athletic scholarship. For Coop, this would be a struggle. Yeah, I ought to rest up my brain, huh? This is how it's going to work. Rob leaned in close and told us the plan. Not bad, Rob. Not bad at all, I said. Might work, Bobster agreed. Yo, Coop added. Oh no, do I have to? Glass moaned. He covered his head with his arms. Rob picked up one elbow and pried open one of Simon's tightly closed eyes. Yes, you do, Rob said, nodding emphatically. You most certainly do. He dropped Simon's eyelid. Oh no, Glass said again. Off to get the okay from Deputy Dog. Rob glided away. The deputy gave his approval. In fact, he thought it was a terrific idea. Bobster was put in charge of choreography. I was to head up publicity. Coop was to keep it a secret and concentrate on winning the football game. And Rob was to coordinate everything. The time wasn't right for Simon to have a date, it would interfere with the plans. So that was one hurdle we didn't have to jump. It was, however, a hurdle I had yet to leap. Bob made his move on Ginger Donaldson. I think his former girlfriend was drinking Clorox under his bedroom window in protest. Rob would be escorting Blair Cruz, our head cheerleader and winner of every popularity contest since kindergarten. She was a shoo-in for homecoming queen, which would make Rob homecoming beau. Rob and I were alone in the weight room that afternoon. I counted and huffed out sit-ups on the slant board and as Rob pedaled the stationary bike. Neither of us spoke. Finally, Stuart, when are you going to get a date for homecoming? The boat is about to sail, my man. I was thinking of skipping the festivities, Rob. Why? I felt the room turn chilly. Got lots to do. Busy, 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 I said. I've got the underwear drawer to straighten out, old copies of TV Guide to catch up on. Cut the bullshit, young. You're going to homecoming. It was a command. Why is this so important to you? Because we're going to turn the tide with Simon at the dance. We all have to be there. He doesn't need me. Coop practically wags his tail when Glass is around, and you're running the show. I can take a pass on seeing Simon's triumph. It pisses you off that you're not Coop's one and only hero anymore, doesn't it? Save the amateur analysis for someone who gives a rat's ass. As Rob pumped the pedals, the wheel made a ticking sound. I kept counting. My abs screamed, but somehow the pain comforted me. I kept counting. I know what the problem is, young. I kept counting. You want to ask Ronna Perry, but you're waiting for something. What am I waiting for, Great One? I stopped to catch my breath. I don't know. A sign from the gods? The stars to align? Someone to tell you to do it? I'm not sure why I didn't answer. I started my sit-ups again. Go ahead, ask her. I lost count. I rolled off the board and snapped up a towel. I'm gonna bail. Rob nodded and kept pumping the pedals. Homecoming under the stars. That was the theme of the big do. I guess the planning committee found posters from the zillion other years that homecoming was under the stars. Rana and I walked into the dimly lit gym that was laced by spotlights pointing up to the ceiling, the light flickering and dancing among foil-covered stars that quivered at the end of fishing line. An antique mirrored ball that had been used at every homecoming since 1965 rotated and flashed in the center. We had finally won a football game and everyone was pumped. Even the ratty stars and the tacky mirrored wall threw off their own brand of magic, and the place held a slightly frayed enchantment. Rana was definitely princess material, her dark hair framed eyes the color of champagne. Ron was long and lean and walked with a straight backed ease. She made my blood pound. I can't wait to see what's going on. Those posters are great, Rana says as we enter the double doors. She referred to the posters that had lined the halls for 2 weeks. Who is the Wolverine? And Homecoming Surprise, don't miss it. And The Wolverine Unmasked. The rabble had been buzzing with their guesses and suppositions. There were betting pools with the odds rising and falling as rumor changed and armchair detectives announced their deductions. Rob was on top of the world, his usual roost. In a navy blazer and striped tie, he exuded the aura of a movie star. Young, let's dance. The lights reflected in Rana's eyes. Her short hair made the back of her head seem so vulnerable that I yearned to cut my hand against the soft curve where skull rounds into neck. Instead, I shrugged. Sure, that's what we're here for. She wrinkled her nose, animating the freckles, and drifted into my arms like an indrawn breath. You waited a long time to ask me to this dance. I'm sorry, I murmured into her scented hair. I was worried, waiting for you to make a move. It's a brand new century. Why didn't you ask me? I said. She held up her hand and wiggled her fingers. What do you see? Her nails were chewed to the quick. Those, she said, are evidence that my self confidence is mostly a fraud. She grinned. I thought I'd end up being the only princess without a date. She pulled back and squinted through her lashes at me. Well, no comment? I drew her back against me. Is that true? Would I lie? What would I have to gain? That one stumped me for a minute. I guess to flatter me, make me like you. But you already do. I laughed outright. Are you sure about the confidence being a fraud? I have self doubt, but I'm not stupid. You do so like me. She walked her bitten fingertips across my shoulder, then yanked my earlobe. Don't you? You'd better say so, or you'll be missing an ear very soon. She snugged her face against my neck. I smoothed my fingers over her hair and rounded my palm at the base of her head. Yes, I do like you a lot. I paused a minute, feeling her breath against my throat and her breasts against my chest. But you can have the ear anyway. Consider it a party favor. She giggled. I can make a necklace. Too grisly. Press it in a book like a flower. She leaned back, mischief making her eyes sparkle. Tell you what, you keep it for me, but it's mine. Nobody else gets to touch it. She kissed her index finger and touched it to my ear. There, you're branded. I own that ear. Rob appeared next to us, cleared his throat, and bowed in imitation of a discreet English butler. The stars dulled. What do you need, Rob? You, compadre. Rana, can I have a word with the steward? I'll just be a minute. Rana sighed dramatically. Well, at least the ear is mine. She grinned. I have to go anyway. They're about to announce the homecoming queen, and I have to put on that stupid ribbon. I watched her sail away. Talk to the journalism judge and make sure he is where he can get good pictures of Glass. I already took care of it, I said. I know I'm being a pain. In the butt, I added. Yep, I know, but I need this to go perfect. I wondered for the hundredth time why this was so necessary to Rob. The only thing I could find was that he needed control the way I needed approval. He slapped me lightly on the back. You're the only one I can count on. I talked to the journalism drone again. He gave me a bored look and assured me that he'd do his job. Miss Connolly and the cheerleading sponsor lined the girls as escorts along one of the white stripes on the floor. The girls stood opposite us, fussing with their banners and whispering to one another frantically. I took my place, next to Lance. He leaned close. Hey, asshole. Only reason you're here with Rana is I waited too late to ask her. He smirked at me. Had to give Blair the boot. A senior chick is too old. I looked around. His date was a sophomore. Get 'em young and train 'em right, Lance said. My hands clenched into fists. The lead singer tapped on the microphone. Okay, boys and girls, and even you folks that haven't decided which you are, close your mouths and breathe through your noses. Your hallowed leader is going to come up here and present the best flesh on the hoof in your fair school. Here he is, kiddies. Deputy dog! He drawled the dog as he spun and gestured with an outstretched hand as he bowed. Only his middle finger was extended. Thanks, Alex, Deputy said. We'll be sure that picture doesn't make the yearbook. Now let's see who will be our homecoming queen. He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. From the sophomore class, our princesses are Sandy Crenshaw, escorted by junior beau David Wills. Suddenly, a trumpet player in the band stood and a da 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 blared. One of the spotlights swiveled its aim from the ceiling to the double doors at one end of the gym. The drummer began a tattoo, rolling it louder and louder, crashing to a thunderous finale as the gym doors burst open to reveal the Wolverine mascot, complete with the homecoming queen's rhinestone tiara cocked on his oversized head. The Wolverine twirled on one heel, then began a hip hopping dance from pool of light to pool of light in a path to the center of the gym. He whirled and bowed to clamorous applause. Strutting to the line of awaiting princesses, he bowed to Sandy, took her in his arms, and waltzed her to the stage. Depositing Sandy, the Wolverine dropped to one knee, bent his huge muzzle, kissed her hand, popped up, and sashayed merrily back to the princesses, where he began the giddy ritual again. When all the girls were whirled to the When all the girls were whirled to the dais, Deputy waited for the applause to die down. The moment is at hand. The Wolverine will present the crown to this year's homecoming queen. Since the results are secret, I'll tell the mascot the name of our winner. Jazzing his way to the front, the Wolverine leaned forward, one paw cupped around his huge pointed ear. When the deputy whispered, the mascot raised his furry arms above his head and clapped, pulled the crown from his head, and carried it in front of him like a fragile egg. He stood before each queen candidate and offered the crown, then snatched it away, shaking his head with extreme regret. He did this to every girl, faced the crowd, and gave a hopeless shrug. Back at the microphone, he gestured for the dog to whisper again. The Wolverine nodded and wandered along the stage behind the waiting girls and plunked the tiara on Blair Cruz's head. The crowd applauded and Rob bent to give Blair the customary kiss. The Wolverine jumped between them, whipped off the big fake head, tossed it aside, grabbed Blair, leaned her back in a movie star pose, and planted a kiss on her surprised mouth. Applause, gasps, cheers, drumbeats, trumpet flourishes, and piercing whistles shook the gym. Simon pulled Blair upright. Both blushed crimson. Simon appeared abashed and embarrassed now that the mask was off. Blair adjusted her crown, grabbed Simon, bent him back as he had done her, and kissed him soundly. He stretched out one leg and pointed his furry toes. The roar measured at least a 6 on the Richter scale. The band cranked up and Deputy shouted into the microphone. And now our homecoming queen, Miss Blair Cruz, will dance with the homecoming beau, Rob Haynes. The music pumped up. Rob leaned over to Blair and spoke. She nodded and Rob gestured to Simon, signaling that he should dance with the new queen. Blushing furiously, Glass kissed Blair's hand. Taking her into his arms, he danced her to the center of the gym under the shimmering ball of light. Glass was dancing with the queen under a spotlight, and the crowd approved. It was magic, all right, pure magic.